so great to see you all here. My name is Neeki Moatazedi, Councilwoman for District 2. I was your mayor 2 years ago, so I've been living in Baker Ranch for almost 7 years, I think now. I love it here. I grew up in Orange County, in the Dakota Gaza area, went to Michigan High School a long time ago, and UCI and Chapman, respectively, for my degrees. I love this area. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm also really passionate about public safety. During my mayorship, I had a huge public safety kind of push campaign, probably around the time where people were not really interested in public safety that much. We instituted flock safety cameras in the city. If you're not familiar with that, those are license plate readers for anything that's on the hot list. Is that right? The hot list? With the Orange County Sheriff's Department. You get on the hot list if you do something bad. So don't worry, they're not taking pictures of your license plates going to the grocery store. So that's really helped solve actually a lot of crimes here in the city and also in neighboring cities. We also have, I know you guys know, but other cities actually call Lake Forest and say, hey, we have a vehicle, looks like it might be coming through Lake Forest. You know, so we're helping out in that way, and the police officers here do a wonderful job. But I do know that there's some issues in our neighborhood that I thought we'd talk about and bring to light and what we can do as a community to make it safer for our families and prevent crime. So, like I said, I'm Neeki. Our mayor is here, Rob Pequeno in the back.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming.
And then we also have OCSD coming to talk a little bit more about what we're seeing and give you some tips. So, Brittany, take it away. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brittany Olam. I'm the Crime Prevention Specialist for Lake Forest Police Services. I do work with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, but specifically assigned to the city of Lake Forest. And today I brought Sergeant Naomi Hernandez and Sergeant Jeff Jensen here to help me with some Q&A. But you guys want to come up, we'll introduce ourselves. So I actually started with the Sheriff's Department, I'm trying to think, like 2006 or 7 as a cadet, and traveled around different contract cities with the Sheriff's Department. So if you're not familiar with our contract services, some cities like Irvine or Tustin have their own PD, whereas cities like Lake Forest, Mission Viejo contract with the Sheriff's Department for their law enforcement services. It's just like having your personal police department, but we have a lot broader scale of resources, including investigations teams and things like that. So I traveled around different contract cities and then have been in Lake Forest the last 4 years.
Hello. First of all, I'm glad to see that people are interested in public safety, so thank you for coming out. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for going on 21 years, and in that time I've done a variety of assignments, from patrol down on the west side of the 5 freeway in the city of Woodland Hills to North Orange County in the unincorporated areas of Anaheim and Midway City, and then back down here as a sergeant in the city of Lake Forest. I've worked general investigations, which are the property crimes that we often deal with day to day, which are the burglaries and the misdemeanor assault and battery type cases. But I've also worked in areas such as human trafficking, sexual assault, and for a brief assignment, I worked in our homicide detail. So I have a lot to pull from. I also have a lot of colleagues that have a lot of experience, and we confer about the cases we have, the things we see day to day, day in, day out in the field. So we have a lot to draw from.
Well, I'm glad to be here, so thank you for having us. My name is Jeff Jensen. I've been with the Sheriff's Department since '99, so going on 23 years. I have a whole bunch of experience like Naomi does. Work patrols in the city of Stanton, San Clemente, here in Lake Forest, and north unincorporated areas. I worked in our investigative detail for our gang unit for a while, and then I promoted to investigator. Was an investigator for 5.5 years, 6 years. Worked human trafficking task force. Worked child abuse, family crimes with the narcotic unit. I also am an instructor with the Sheriff's Department, so I've been teaching for the last 15 years with the sheriffs at the academy for our new recruits that are coming through, and then advanced officer training and stuff. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be assigned to Lake Forest. I've been here for, I think, 4 months now. 4 months, 5 months, something like that. So kind of new, but I like it a lot.
So I'm just going to go over some general safety for the city of Lake Forest, crimes, most common crimes we see in the city of Lake Forest, and some prevention tips. That's kind of my role in the community outreach and education, just to let you guys know what's going on in and around our neighborhoods, and then things that you can help us do by protecting yourselves, which in turn will be less victims in our city and a safer community. So majority of the crimes we see in Lake Forest are property crimes. That includes like burglaries, residential, commercial burglaries, or thefts from unlocked vehicles, catalytic converter thefts, package thefts. So those are the most common crimes we see pretty much all throughout South Orange County. Why is that? It's because South Orange County is a nice, affluent area. We kind of, I live here as well in South Orange County, and sometimes we seem to let our guard down because we know we live in a nice community. So we may accidentally leave our car unlocked, our purse on the front seat when we think we're running in the house for a few minutes, but it turns out to be a half hour or an hour or overnight. And people just come through our community, sometimes that live in the city, sometimes that live outside our city, and do what's called car fishing. So they check unlocked car doors, check for unlocked vehicles, and then once they find something that's open, they rummage through and then take those items. So our violent crime is pretty low, although we did see a slight increase throughout throughout all of Orange County in 2021, about an 11% increase. However, that is pretty small and minimal, and just keep in mind for violent crimes, assaults and things like that, a lot of the crimes included people that know each other. So it's not random acts of violence happening, it's people who know each other, colleagues, neighbors, spouses, people in a relationship, friends, things like that. So I spoke a little bit about residential burglaries, and things you could do to prevent residential burglaries is increase lighting, keep doors and windows closed and locked when you're away from home, and especially garages. That's kind of a crime of opportunity we see. People will drive by and if your garage is open, you're not in it, they kind of cruise by and see what's in your garage, what's available to steal, and then they'll come back around and take those items when you're not in or around your garage. So if you're inside your house and leave your garage open, it's just best to close it. Some other tips for vehicle safety: make sure you close and lock all windows, especially at night. Residential burglaries that happen are somewhat infrequent in our area, but they do happen actually mostly during the day when people are away from home. They may have decreased recently or throughout the last couple years because people are working from home a lot more. So that's the good sign of people working from home. And so if you are working from home and someone knocks on your door, just make sure you acknowledge it. Say you're unavailable, or hopefully you have a Ring camera or a doorbell camera to answer and respond to those people. And then catalytic converter thefts. Ideally, if you could park in a garage or make your driveway well lit, maybe install motion sensor lighting to prevent those thefts. Thieves don't like to be seen, so any light definitely deters them. And then you can also get your catalytic converter etched. So in the event it is stolen and it is recovered, then we can tie that back to your vehicle as well. And I'm sure you guys have seen package thefts or have had neighbors had their packages stolen, unfortunately. So that has been pretty common over the last 2 years because of COVID and the pandemic. A lot of people started online ordering. So if you're expecting a package, definitely make sure to pick that up when it is delivered, or have a neighbor look out for it. Have neighbors look out for your mail or anything else that if you're away from home as well. Actually, there was maybe 2 years or so ago, one of our deputies was in Baker Ranch taking a report for a package theft. And the neighbor had really good ring surveillance, and it got the car, but it didn't get the license plate. And that was before we had the flock cameras. So a couple hours later, he was filling up his patrol unit at the gas station over here. And he's like, man, that looks like a really familiar car. Why do I know that car? And he looked at his notes and he's like, oh my God, I think that's the guy with the package. And sure enough, he went up to him and got his information, confirmed it was him, and the guy got arrested and they got the package back that night within hours. So definitely, if a crime does happen to you, definitely report it as soon as possible, especially with these flock cameras. The deputies are solving a lot of crimes that way. So definitely report it to us. Also keep in mind, especially if you have any seniors or elderly neighbors, they're being targeted with scams. So they're being called saying they won Publishers Clearinghouse, or the grandpa-grandma scams saying your grandchild's in jail, they need bail money, things like that. So definitely talk to your family members and make sure they confirm with the other family members that this is a scam occurring. And then some personal safety tips are, we've had a couple distraction burglaries throughout the last couple of years, people shopping at the grocery store or just through shopping centers where people will approach you. And maybe you have, one of the incidences was someone was shopping with their purse in the shopping cart, and a person came up to that shopper and distracted them while they had a second person come grab their wallet out of their purse. And then they didn't realize it till they got to the checkout stand and they didn't have a wallet to pay. So just keep in mind, ladies, like maybe wear crossbody purses or keep your purses on you while you're shopping. Don't put them in your shopping cart. If you do have to put them in your shopping cart, definitely close it and keep your eyes on it at all times. Also, we have a pretty good relationship with the Neighborhood Watch block captains in this area. They have really done an amazing job, and when I go help other communities with neighborhood watches, they always say, I've heard Baker Ranch does a really good job of setting up neighborhood watches. And one of the residents who really kicked it off here, Kevin Crockford, I heard he moved away, but I reached out to him and he gave me like a top 10 steps for neighborhood watch block captain. So whenever a new block captain comes along, I give him the tips. But we just really want to encourage all the residents in the city to just be aware of your surroundings, practice these safety tips, and look out for each other. And unfortunately, we can't have a deputy on every street at all times of the day. So we really rely on your partnership to help us by reporting the crimes, and even reporting suspicious people or suspicious vehicles, so we could try to deter the crime or prevent it before it actually happens. So that's been really helpful for communities who've set up neighborhood watches. So we have magnets in the back that have our non-emergency phone number on it. So that would be for like suspicious vehicles, suspicious persons, maybe people loitering in the area that aren't known to the area. If you are an unfortunate victim of a package theft or something like that, you're calling to file a report with a deputy, that would be the phone number you'd use. And then any like crime in progress or emergency, obviously 911 is the best phone number to get to our dispatchers quickly. And I think that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions? questions on those things, on those items we discussed? No? Well, most of this discussion is really your opportunity to ask us whatever you want to know about law enforcement in the city, things that you see, things that can help our community be safer. And so we really want to know, we want your feedback for what can we do to help you guys with public safety. Yes, ma'am.
So call 949-770-6091 to report a crime.
Yes.
And then what's the difference, police service number and that number?
Oh, so the police services number, yes. So we are fortunate in the city of Lake Forest that we have our sheriff's substation in the city. So our sheriff's substation on Rancho Parkway, that's where our deputies and sergeants go pick up their patrol units, change out to their uniforms, grab all their gear, and then they go work their respective cities. So the cities of Rancho Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo, and Lake Forest all report to that substation. However, that police services number, we actually have a Lake Forest Police Services Administrative Office at City Hall, and that phone number goes to our front counter there, and our STARS volunteers man that phone line. However, it's only from 8 to 4.
We really, on the Sheriff's Department, really push for our school resource officers and for the funding for that and getting that. And you have a great school resource officer, Deputy Godman, he's awesome, but it's one person. And so we do augment that with patrol checks and with patrol deputies that go around. But you have to remember that this city is a very, very busy city. It is probably the busiest city per capita than any other city in the Sheriff's Department jurisdiction. So because we have all the crimes, we have all these things going on. And then deputies are proactive because you've got amazing deputies here, deputies that are very proactive, they're very hungry to go in and really serve the community. And some of them live in the community also. So they're really pushing to do good for you guys. But again, it is a busy city. So as far as the safety of the kids, it's the #1 priority. I know that. And I know that we are working towards trying to do some certain things on the admin side of it so that we can be better prepared for certain circumstances that happen in the future.
And the SMART team as well.
Yeah. You want to talk about SMART?
We have a SMART team which handles any threats, possible threats, vague threats, however slight, however great, that stem from a school, from students, secondhand, firsthand, secondhand, doesn't matter. We have this team of sergeants and investigators that respond, do a threat assessment, and as needed, they will deploy additional resources if they see fit. But we have a lot of resources here. I'm going to just piggyback what he said, and we are a very fortunate city. I am very thankful for the city manager, our mayor, our council members, because we have a lot of support in the city, and we need to continue to push that because that's what's going to hopefully mitigate a lot of problems we would otherwise see. But stay engaged, keep your ear to the ground, talk to your kids, talk to teachers, talk to administrators, put the pressure on the school districts and the board to get some changes made if we need that.
So I'm hearing a lot about statistics from the Sheriff's Department about drug overdoses at like 700%. It's crazy, and it's because of fentanyl being introduced to the streets, and also it being dealers lacing other types of drugs with it in order to get especially young people hooked. So this is a huge epidemic, which I almost feel like was overshadowed by COVID in some ways. How do we protect our children? I mean, you hear about kids dying, and unfortunately I know a young person who died here due to a fentanyl overdose unknowingly using something else. So what do we look for? How can we protect our kids? How do we educate them that, even marijuana these days is laced with something?
There's, I'm a parent myself. I have a son going into high school, a son going into junior high, and I have a son that's a police officer right now. these are conversations you have to have with your children. You have to tell them, you have to talk to them about drugs, you have to talk to them about marijuana and alcohol. Gone are the days that we want to shelter our kids from that information. The more they're aware, the more they become, the more they can recognize it when they see it and how to stay away from that. There are a lot of PSAs online. If you were to look at fentanyl videos, not helpful fentanyl videos, you will find that the Sheriff's Department, and there's been several documentaries where people talk about losing their young adult children, their teenage children to drugs. And unfortunately, the drug problem, I hate to say, but it's out of control. And what kids sometimes believe they're buying, or young adults believe they're buying, could be some sort of a pill or something else that, and it's going to come laced with fentanyl, and unfortunately that just takes a catastrophic turn. But have the conversation. Look up on the internet resources, because there are a lot of documentaries. I've shown my youngest son, I've shown him those videos of fentanyl, of moms crying, dads crying, talking about the loved ones they lost to drugs. We have responded recently to calls where young adults have taken what they believe is methamphetamine, and it's laced with fentanyl in the city, and unfortunately they died as a result of that. So it's a real threat, it's a real issue, but you have to address it with your children. And I know that our school resource officers, through their group and through their coordinator and the sergeants that oversee all of our school resource officers, work on presentations to demonstrate at school, to show at schools and stuff. So I know my son, being a sixth grader, like I said, he's going to junior high, he recently saw something, they did a presentation on fentanyl at his school. So I would imagine that they'd be doing that here as well. And if not, inquire with principal, with teachers, and we can address that to see.
Like they increase their education, because
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it's not like when we were growing up where it's like,
Taboo.
whenever you try something, I'm not saying that I tried anything, but I'm just saying, you try something and whatever, right? Because now with it being laced, it creates that immediate addiction, like right away, right? 'Cause it's not-
I will say, an analogy, I'm not a narcotics expert. However, I will say now we're at a point to where drug users are seeking to buy fentanyl. We're at that point now, so I don't want to elaborate too much, because that's not a topic where I'm in expertise at. But we are seeing that now, where people are looking for fentanyl-laced drugs.
They're panhandling for money. Is it right to be panhandling with like a 5-year-old? Like, who call?
Well, normally those calls would come to the Sheriff's Department, and then we go out there and we make contact and we assess what it is that we have. Are these their children? One of the first things we establish, and then how long have they been out here? Some people, for those who call in things that look suspicious, things that look out of the ordinary, a lot of times our hands are tied, because that person is no longer available for us to call back. They say they don't want contact, and off the call goes. So it's just left for us to go out and make contact and assess what we assess, and take whatever steps necessary as we see fit. But sometimes we need that person back on the phone. We need someone to sign, someone to tell us, hey, how long did you see these people out here? How long did you see these kids in the sun with no water, sweating, pacing back and forth, looking disoriented? So that information is for us to assess, and we will make the proper notifications to CPS if necessary.
So you guys make that notification after you assess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
To piggyback off hers, there's a gal that does it right up here at Target,
Yeah.
and she also frequents down at the State Road on El Toro in Tribuco. And I've seen that lady walk up and get a Mercedes and drive off. And she has a child that's probably less than 2 years old with her.
Do we think she's getting in her car of someone she knows, or do we think
No,
she's...
she like gets in the car and drives off.
Oh, she gets in a car and drives away.
Yeah, drives off.
Is that illegal to get in? Is that trespass? What is that?
Well, they're loitering, and a lot of times those calls often are welfare checks for the children. But you know, that would be something that the city could discuss as to whether or not they want to. You have something to?
Well,
Sure.
loitering and panhandling are not against law, so there's nothing we can do about either one of those.
Just don't give them money.
Well, that's,
Yes.
that's law for not
Don't
doing
encourage
it.
Right,
I
I think they
agree.
hang out there because people give them
They give them
money.
plenty of money, and I'll tell you, they give them up to $400 a day.
Yes, I think
That's
people
what
here
I'm
have
saying.
good hearts, and I know Sheriff's Department always says this, hand up, not a handout. And there's resources for people that do need help, plenty of them, and oftentimes they're not really needing help.
Well, you
Right.
know, you brought up, the sheriff's department has resources. You know, the sheriff's department has really pushed, the homeless liaison officer, positions. They've pushed the hot team, they've pushed a lot of, behavioral health issues. We have a whole behavioral health division that works on the southeast of the freeway, the east side of the freeway, which is us. And they really have a lot of resources. Every deputy, every sergeant has to go to, these courses to talk about, you know, homelessness and behavioral health issues and mental health issues. And we really, you know, almost become like, not experts, but be able to deal with these things. And so we have to be able to go, because a lot of the calls that we're going on are more behavioral health now. But luckily, we have a behavioral health deputy that's assigned out here. And she comes out and helps out and handles a lot of the calls. And we have a homeless liaison officer that comes out and he handles the calls. And they'll help out a lot. Unfortunately, we don't have one 24 hours a day just because of staffing purposes. But it's something that we do have. And we're lucky that the city allows us to be able to fund those positions.
They have resources that are readily available. They need a bus pass, maybe to go to their final destination somewhere else. They are quick to offer those if needed, so.